Olá, eu sou Mariana Mortani, sou jornalista, roteirista e tradutora e estou aqui no YouTube e nas redes sociais falando sobre protagonismo sáfico em livros, filmes e séries. Essa semana eu venho falando muito sobre Harlem nas redes sociais. Essa é uma das séries que eu mais amo e acabou de ganhar uma segunda temporada com episódios semanais no Prime Video. Eu tive a honra de entrevistar o elenco principal e a criadora da série, e esse aqui é o vídeo onde vocês vão conferir o meu papo com Tracy Oliver, que começou sua carreira como atriz, se tornou roteirista e também é produtora. Como roteirista e mulher lésbica, foi muito importante conversar com alguém que me inspira e apresenta personagens diversos, cheios de representatividade em todas as suas histórias. E a gente falou de carreira, falamos sobre expectativas para a segunda temporada de Harlem, e eu espero que vocês curtam demais esse papo. A entrevista com o elenco principal, né, o quarteto principal, vai estar aqui nos cards para vocês conferirem, e eu espero que vocês deixem muitos likes para que mais oportunidades como essa surjam por aqui. Como sempre acontece quando eu entrevisto alguém que eu admiro, eu já começo me apresentando e expondo essa admiração, né? E eu precisava ressaltar o quão incrível é ver Tracy abrindo portas para vozes queer e negras na frente e atrás das câmeras. Por isso, eu quis saber como estava sendo para ela ver seu trabalho reconhecido não só em seu nicho, mas fora dele e com alcance internacional.
Hi, Tracy. So nice to meet you. My name is Mariana. I'm from Brazil. And as a screenwriter and a lesbian who took a long time to see herself on screen, I admire your work a lot. And I love that you always have been opening doors for Black voices, not only in front of screen but behind scenes too. What has it been like to realize that people realize the importance of your work and that it has reached people from far away like Brazil?
Oh, wow. Honestly, it's the coolest thing ever. I grew up kind of like in a small town, and it was like my dream to figure out like how to be on screen or how to write things for people on screen, and I never had like a path or anybody that I knew who had done it previously, and so I just kind of had to figure it out on my own, and it's kind of surreal, to be honest, that I actually do have that type of impact, or that people talk about my work or reference the characters that I've written or the dialogue that I've written. I never imagined this for myself in a million years. So it's been really, really humbling and exciting, and my family couldn't be prouder, and that makes me proud as well. So it's been awesome.
Tracy Oliver começou sua carreira como atriz, né? Eu já mencionei isso. Foi na série The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl. Mas eu ainda não sabia qual foi o pontapé inicial para que ela migrasse para roteiro e posteriormente para a produção. Ela acabou contando isso pra gente.
Yeah, I always thought I was going to be on screen, and the process of auditioning is terrible. I feel so bad for actors because literally you can just walk into a room and not even have acted or said anything and be the wrong type, and someone says nope. And so I hated that I had so little control over my destiny, that I was always coming in and being judged and I didn't have any agency. And so I was complaining about it to my mom, and she said, well, why don't you learn how to write for yourself? So it kind of just started as this, I'm going to write for myself so I don't have to audition and hope someone likes me. And then I just loved it so much that it evolved into writing for other people. And now that's pretty much what I do, and I love it. And I try to make actors feel better about the process than when I was coming along, because it can be kind of brutal. So I try to give opportunities to people that I think normally wouldn't have an opportunity, and I try to deliberately go with different shades and sizes and hair textures and backgrounds, just because I think it's important that we see all different types of people on screen. And I know what it was like when, the blonde, blue-eyed, skinny, prototype was all that people were looking for. So I think my experiences as an actor have helped me become a better producer in that way, and to be more inclusive of other types of people.
Foi algo pessoal que impulsionou a carreira de Tracy, e é possível ver esse paralelo na série também. Ela falou também sobre como é balancear os dois lados e como ela quis escrever uma história que fala justamente sobre equilibrar a vida pessoal e profissional de forma autêntica. Eu falei no vídeo da entrevista com o elenco que esse é o ponto alto da série pra mim, né? Então confiram a resposta dela.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a balancing act, and I think that's true to life as well. There are days that I wake up that I'm like, oh, I don't even want to get out of bed. And I'm tired, or I'm heartbroken, or something is going on in my personal life that keeps me from being my most joyful self. And then there are other times where I have to pinch myself because I'm just so happy and just loving where I am and loving the people that I'm surrounded by, loving sometimes just looking out at a view of something. I'm like, wow, life is beautiful. And so I feel like it's not accurate and authentic to do a show that's only showing the positive aspects of life, especially with romance. And that's kind of a big part of the show. We cover dating a lot, and dating is highs and lows, man. There's so many beautiful things, but it's also painful. And so I think you have to kind of show the full like gamut if you're going to do it, and have people relate to it and have it feel authentic.
E falando em balancear, né, como seria pra ela equilibrar o lado roteirista com o lado de produtora? Na minha vida, tudo se completa. Eu sou jornalista, sou roteirista, sou escritora, sou tradutora para literatura e para dublagem. Então, tudo isso sou eu. E eu me sinto completa, mas é muito trabalho, é muita energia. E a Tracy respondeu o que pode pesar mais nesse processo.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I would say both kind of equally. When I sit down and start thinking about seasons, I think about ideas that are funny to me, ideas that are going on in my life, if I'm experiencing something with a relationship, if I'm experiencing something just personally in general. I write that stuff down to kind of figure out how can I channel what I'm feeling and what other people I know are feeling into something creatively. But then my producer hat comes on, and that probably takes up the majority of my energy because it's so much work putting together things, especially in a pandemic, and trying to figure out how to accomplish things without people getting sick, and you have limited locations, and trying to make sure it feels authentic. And sometimes we don't get the most money to do all of the things that are in my head. So I would say they're both about equally important, but maybe producing a little bit more just because you have to turn something in and you hope for the best, but producing is what gets you through it.
A Tracy mencionou essa questão, né, da pandemia, então também surgiu uma dúvida. Como adaptar a ideia original de acordo com o que aconteceu, né, em 2019, quando a série foi aprovada e começou a ser produzida pra cá? Ela acabou contando qual foi a ideia inicial, um dos insights que inclusive está presente nessa segunda temporada, e foi o que realmente direcionou o roteiro.
That's also a really good question. I think it's changed in a lot of ways. The world, when I first conceived Harlem, we've never had a global pandemic. I never even knew that could be possible, to be honest. And so I think there was like a freedom to the first season, and there was just, you're trying to like introduce these characters and have fun. And then the second season in this pandemic, it felt like, okay, we might have to deal with some heavier subjects, and we have a character named Quinn who's actually dealing with a little bit of mental health stuff that comes up in this season in particular. And I don't think I would have done that the first season, just given where we were, but there were so many people struggling and trying to stay joyful and trying to stay light and happy with so much grief around them that it felt disingenuous to not address that, at least somewhat, in the second season. But I didn't want to get bogged down in it because at the end of the day, I still see the show as fun and escapist and silly and heartfelt and romantic and all of the lighter things. So I think this time around, I allowed us to delve into heavier topics, but still tried to keep it light because I think that's the essence of the show.
E claro que, sendo a criadora da série, ela ia colocar algo pessoal ali na trama, né? É inevitável. E eu já queria perguntar para as atrizes o que elas tinham de mais parecido e de oposto com as suas personagens. Vocês podem conferir as respostas lá no outro vídeo que já apareceu aí nos cards. Mas, para Tracy, a pergunta foi a seguinte.
Of those all different types, physical and emotional, which one do you relate most? And which one maybe would you like to be more like?
Ooh. I would say I relate to Camille the most, and Camille is played by Megan Good. And I relate to her the most because I too am struggling to figure out my personal life. And when I was younger, I thought by now I would have it all together because it seemed really easy if you watch the movies. things just seemed to like fall into place. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to be like that too. I'm going to be successful and have like money and a beautiful husband and kids, and none of that has actually happened. So I'm kind of struggling to pull it together like her. So I relate on that level. And who I would like to be more like is probably Ty, because she actually has her professional life together and she's not afraid to say what she means and to be direct and to be aggressive about what she wants. And I think that's hard for women to do sometimes, to speak up and speak authoritatively. And I think that she doesn't care if she's liked. And I think that's a superpower. So I would love to have that aspect of her personality.
Nenhum dos jornalistas tinha assistido a segunda temporada ainda, né? Essas entrevistas aconteceram no dia 31 de janeiro. Quem me acompanha nas redes sociais acompanhou o meu dia. E a gente recebeu os episódios só naquela manhã. Então tava todo mundo meio que querendo saber o que esperar da segunda temporada ainda. Daí a Tracy compartilhou qual é a personagem que provavelmente terá um arco que mais vai divertir o público.
I'll go with Camille, played by Megan Good. And I'll say that because it's just so messy. And there's a lot of soap there. It's like a juicy love triangle. And it's also her character kind of figuring out what to do after blowing up her whole life. At the end of season 1, she blew it up professionally, she blew it up personally, and I think there's a lot of fun to kind of watch her pull it back together, or does she not? And so I think there's just something to laugh at and also to relate to with a woman struggling to figure out her life at this point.
A entrevista com a Tracy foi a primeira que eu participei naquele dia e foi a próxima resposta dela que gerou uma pergunta importante para o elenco principal. Eu pedi que ela comparasse um pouco das duas temporadas e ela revelou algo muito importante que eu já tinha falado na minha crítica, que questões do nosso passado e principalmente questões familiares acabam nos moldando. Por isso, a segunda temporada de Harlem vem mostrando aí, compartilhando o passado das personagens.
Comparing the seasons, do you feel like the second comes with more security to approach the layers of the characters? And which is the main message each of your characters would like to convey compared to the first season?
That's a good question. I would say the second season allowed me an opportunity to kind of dig into their origin stories more. The first season, you're just kind of meeting them, so it's hard to kind of pull back and figure out how they became this way. And then the second season, because what I'm learning as an adult is that all of my present day like insights and the way that I act they're rooted in how I grew up and how I was raised and the examples of love that I got. And so I was like, all right, well, in the second season, let's meet some parents. Let's figure out how and why some of them became the way that they became. And we get to do that with Angie and Camille in particular, but Ty as well. And with Quinn, we're dealing with some of her mental health stuff that's just coming up as a product, I think, of the world changing, but also sometimes you just feel lost. And so in the second season, I felt like I got to delve into a lot of deeper stuff and get to know the characters like and their backstories a lot better than I did season 1. And I love that aspect of season 2. And I also think thematically where we went to in season 2 was just figuring out what joy means for us, like finding our personal happiness, and whatever that means is unique to each person, but that was kind of the theme, was just figuring out how to get to a place of peace by the end.
E agora, depois dessas rodas de conversa, né, eu espero que vocês já tenham conferido o outro vídeo, não restaram mais dúvidas de que o elenco de Harlem realmente é incrível. A impressão que ficou depois dessas entrevistas é ainda melhor do que eu já tinha, né, pelas redes sociais. E a Tracy comentou uma coisa muito interessante. Esse é o melhor elenco com o qual ela trabalhou.
I think this is maybe my best cast ever, and I hate to say that because I've worked with a lot of casts, but they're just so lovely and they love each other and they're respectful of each other and of me, and it's a deeply collaborative and positive set, and you feel that energy when you walk on to our set. Like, people would be like, wow, that was the Harlem group was so loving. And it starts at the top. I try to respect everybody and make sure that everyone feels heard. But then also Megan, and she's our lead of the show, she does as well. And so I think when you have two people that are promoting a positive work environment and promoting just respect, it kind of lightens the mood, and it has a trickle-down effect where everybody treats each other well. And then the cast, there's just genuine love and chemistry there. And it's hard to do a friendship show when someone hates somebody in the cast. And luckily, I don't have to experience that. So it's never catty or negative, and they're never competitive. They're always rooting for each other. And it just warms my heart to see that, because it's genuine, like off screen as it is on screen.
Esse respeito, essa energia que a Tracy mencionou são evidenciados nas redes sociais, nas interações do elenco, nas entrevistas, e eu amei conhecer essas mulheres que eu já admirava e ter a chance de falar sobre essa nova temporada. Eu adoraria ter mais conteúdo pra questionar mesmo, né, como aconteceu com The Wilds, que eu pude fazer perguntas específicas de acordo com os arcos de cada personagem, porque eu já tinha assistido a segunda temporada na época. Vou deixar a entrevista nos cards também. Mas mesmo assim, eu me diverti demais e espero que vocês tenham curtido todos os conteúdos dessas rodas de conversa. Muito obrigada ao Prime Video pelo convite, muito obrigada a vocês aí do outro lado por compartilharem meus conteúdos e me ajudarem a ter essas oportunidades, né? Eu espero que vocês tenham curtido o resultado das entrevistas, que deixem suas opiniões nos comentários, que deixem seus likes e, é claro, que me acompanhem nas redes sociais e me digam aí se eu conseguir finalmente convencer vocês a assistirem Harlem. Se você tá passando aqui pela primeira vez, se inscreve no canal, ativa as notificações e confira os links importantes aqui na descrição. Temos grupo no Telegram com novidades diariamente, Clube Sáfico, meus livros com protagonismo lésbico e minhas redes sociais aí embaixo também. Um beijo e até os comentários.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys.
So nice meeting you.
So nice to meet you.